today to talk about the Juniper migration, the journey we went on. It started well over 4.5 years ago with the planning. And as Tim this year has some other responsibilities being a moderator, I will also come back to some of the final numbers that he promised. Of course, in the first slide, he showed us that this was the initial planning of the Juniper migration, 4.5 years. We had then some delay in the deliveries, which delayed us for 6 months. Back at the last year, Tim said that there was a ship stuck at the Panama Canal. Of course, this was the Suez Canal, which he was rightfully corrected on LinkedIn. After the first migration, as Tim last year told us, we made some improvements. We shortened the time. We kind of caught up with the last time of the delivery. And after that, as he told, he bribed some engineers for some more improvements, which happened. And this was the final prediction that we made last year. In the end, we needed a little bit more time. This was also to give the migration team a bit of a breathing space at the end of last year. So in February of this year, we finally finished the Juniper migration across our platform, pending a few small locations which we still need to consolidate. But for the Juniper migrations, we are done. Thank you. Now, of course, a big thing that Tim talked about as well was the power savings that we got by migrating to the Juniper. What, of course, majorly helped was the use of the new SETA Plus high-power optics, which enabled us to remove our DCI equipment, which, of course, also saves power. And while this slide is a bit different, we almost got there. The nuance here is that because we finished the migration a little bit later than planned, we haven't consolidated the remaining smaller locations. As for the actual numbers, as of now, we have a power reduction across our platform in the Netherlands of 30%. And we expect by the end of this year to have that increased to 39% power savings in total compared to the power we consumed before the migration, which of course is a major reduction of our power consumption. Now, as I said, with the new SETA 4 Plus high-power optics, we could also upgrade our backbones from 100G ports to 400G ports, which, as an engineer, was amazing to see, going from 12 100G ports to just 3 400G ports. That was just during the migrations. Anytime we changed that, it was very beautiful to see. We're very happy about it, and so far it's been working great. So during this migration, of course, we had some highlights. The one I talked about last year as well was the very first migration. Thanks to the amazing prep work of our engineers, Eric and Stavros, we were well prepared. Small detail is that we almost rolled back the migration on the first night. We came very close to rolling back, but thanks to the amazing team that was present at the night, we found a little MTUs, the global setting, that was wrong, causing BGPs to flap. But we fixed it in time, we finished the migration, and as you can see, once again, very happy engineers in the early morning. After this first migration, we did 2 smaller sites. After every migration, we did a retrospective to see what we could improve on, what we could streamline. And after 3 locations that were migrated, we felt confident enough to start with the core migration. Of course, for every engineer, that's very scary. We have 2 redundant cores, as you saw in a previous picture. Removing one of those and just running on one core should be possible, but it cost us to really keep an eye on the monitoring, if anything went wrong, if anything was good. But again, thanks to the amazing preparation and the lessons that we learned from the migrations before, the core migration itself was a success. We were stable, customers were up. Unfortunately, not due to the core migration, but on November 22nd, we had one of the, if not the biggest incident on our platform. At the time, of course, we were operating with a Juniper core a few Juniper locations, and some extreme switches, both SLX and MLX. I'm not going to dive into the detail. If you want a clear and comprehensive explanation, please watch the right presentation from Stavros. It was really clear. All I wanted to say was it was amazing to see how our team reacted. The incident really started to happen outside of office hours. Really quickly, we knew that it was a big incident. And within an hour, outside of office hours, practically my whole team came online. We had our manager Kostas greatly dividing the work. We had our seniors Gary and Stavros diving deep into the troubleshooting. We had the rest of the operations team assisting in the troubleshooting, informing customers, keeping an eye on tickets. I also want to thank the community as a whole. The kind words, the support we got during and after the incident was highly appreciated. So we really appreciated that. It was, it was a dark day at AMS-IX. Then I touched about it last year as well during my presentation. My first big migration in this Juniper project was splitting up Sarah and Nikkev, digital AMS-IX. As I briefly told last year, this meant we ran them as one supersite, both of the locations, and it was decided to split them up. With all the improvements we made along the previous migrations, we thought we could do it in the same time, which we did, but the normal working days were 12 to 13 hours, and at the end of this migration, well, I was a zombie, and I think our field guys could only dream about optics and cables. It was a massive amount of customer ports and hard work, but really proud of it. If you want a bit more details, again, Tim wrote a great blog post about it. So please have a read if you haven't done so already. So you heard me talk about improvements we made along the way. We noticed that after the first migration, communication between the teams wasn't optimal. The planning wasn't done optimally. So after the first retrospective of that migration, it was decided that we needed better centralized organization. This meant that Tim stepped up. He made sure that there were kickoff meetings, that all the teams updated their information properly. This greatly helped the communication between the teams. It enabled us to speed up the migrations. And at the time, it was also decided to create a dedicated migration team, which consisted of 3 NOC engineers, 3 field engineers, and the support of our other colleagues. Those engineers and field engineers enabled us to work 2 by 2, so 2 field, 2 NOCers. And then for the next migration, one of those guys would step out, and the other one would step into the next migration. And this way we could rotate our team properly around and do a migration practically every month. One shout out I want to give. Unfortunately, the field engineer in Winston is not here, but I have to say he's the one that did all of the migrations except for one. He was involved with practically every migration we did along this project. Eric also worked on our XML. Initially, he updated the wiki because the information was a bit outdated. Later on, he improved the way that we work with XML, which to this day still greatly benefits us. And as I said, the teamwork along every migration went better and better. The communication was better and better. It was more clear who had what to do. Later migrations were a breeze to do because of all the improvements, which was amazing. Of course, during a migration like this, you notice that some of the scripts aren't working as they should, especially if you need to push a massive amount of customer configuration, massive amount of test configuration, because the way we call it the snake test is how we test every port before they go into production. If you only do a few ports a week, a month, then what we had in place was fine. However, doing it on a massive scale, it needed some improvements. So I have here a few highlights of the improvements we made along that way, which to this day we still use, like the snake test and the script that Gloria created for the inconsistencies between the customer portal and what is configured on the switch. So if something's out of line, we now more quickly detect it and can adjust that correctly. Here are some snippets of other improvements we made. The initial runbook that was created for the very first migration. Later on, some of those parts were automated. Some of those parts were fine-tuned and standardized. And yeah, as the NOC team did get a training from Juniper, our field engineers were not yet familiar with the Juniper CLI, which is a bit different than the extreme ones. So the two senior colleagues of mine, Gary and Stavros, made a nice documentation for the field team so that they could do some show commands that they were used to. Then I asked around in some of the team to mention some of the high and low lights. I'm not going to hit them all, but I'll show them along the next 3 slides. The main thing that came out of it was amazing teamwork. All the members in the team came back to that. Of course, a more efficient way to use our tools and automate things. Other things was that we got a bit cocky at the later end stages of the migrations. So we thought we could combine our on-call shift during the migration weeks, and yeah, that works if nothing breaks, which yeah, sometimes happens. So that could be a busy shift if you're on call and in a migration team. And the one migration I did with Mariani was, yeah, one of the ones where we ran into the most issues. A few ports didn't come up, but most of things, we had, I believe it was 2 line cards that broke while we turned them up, and we had a routing engine failing, which caused some delays, but because of all the improvements, we still made it in time. And also thanks to the field team for quickly acting upon this. So from the field, once again, it's happy to see the old devices move out and the new devices in. And of course, the field team could go nuts with the cabling, make it all nice and pretty again, as they have taught me in the past. So with a new vendor, we now have a new generation of switches. Of course, this enables us to further evolve our platform. So I want to highlight a few things that we are doing or are on the way. The first one is that we are now in the drawing board phase of upgrading our platform to run on EVPN and MPLS. From what I heard from my colleagues, that's major for me because there's less chance to cause a loop for anyone that was here last year. So I'm really happy to hear about that. It should make it a bit easier. Of course, we continue on optimizing the configuration. While we are now more familiar with the Juniper configuration, there's, of course, still, especially with new protocols, still more to be optimized. And on the background, we are continuously updating our scripts, our automation, and hopefully in the future also being enabled to put more features in the portal for our customers. Then 2 years ago, Eric had a nice presentation that we wanted to move to LR1, which we still do, so please. 2 years ago, he made a presentation. Please have a look at that one. And it was in the beginning of this year that our coffee sponsor, Interlink, turned up the first 100G LR1 link on our platform, which we are very happy about. Then, of course, I want to highlight the migration team. While they're not all here, and I can't call everybody on the stage, I'd like to ask you for a great applause for the migration team. It was a fantastic achievement, and to quote my colleague Stavros, this really is a milestone in the history of AMS-IX. And of course, I'd like to thank the whole of AMS-IX enabling us to do this work, to do it in the time that we did, the improvements that we made, the teamwork that came out of it. So thank you, AMS-IX as a whole, and I'd like to thank you for watching my presentation.
Leroy, thank you very much. I believe you have a strict policy when it comes to questions.
Yes. If you have any questions, please bribe me with a beer after, and I'll be happy to answer.
But we have some time left, so I am going to see if people are willing to bribe you this afternoon. Is there anybody with a question? No? No, I don't see any hands, so no beer for you this afternoon. Sorry.
No beer. Shit.
Leroy, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.